You know, I can't actually remember the last time I read an exclusively heterosexual book. Hello everybody, it's Katie here, and happy Pride Month to you all. Let me just put my little flag back in my umbrella tree. So as somebody who always seeks out diverse books to read and review anyway, I am always looking for new stories that explore sexuality and gender, and that's always especially important during Pride Month, and I always tend to discover a lot more of these books during June because everybody's discussing them and sharing them. So as always, I have my own Pride Rec video for you all, and I'm going to go over my TBR for the month as well. So I've already done some Pride Rec videos and lists on my blog, and they include most of my favourite stories to read during this month. I will leave a link to them in the description in case you want to check them out and find books from those lists. So this video is mainly going to focus on more recent ones that I've discovered because I already talk about queer books constantly anyway, so yeah. But I'm going to just dive in with my must-have favourite for this month, and that one is Gay Club by Simon James Green. The cover and the title alone tell you that you need to read this book during Pride Month. So Gay Club is about two pupils at a British school who are both running for president of their LGBTQ+ society, and because the society is only small and has a few members, rather than just voting amongst themselves, they decide to open up the vote to the whole school. And so it turns into a pretty wild campaign. As always with Simon's books, it is hilarious. There are so many completely insane moments that come out of nowhere. There is also a surprising amount of plot twists. I thought I was going to be able to predict a lot of the things that happened in this book. I was completely wrong. It just surprised me from start to finish. The characters are adorable. There is so much rep in here, even though it is told from the perspective of a gay teenage boy. There are a lot of discussions about different sexualities and gender identities, and so it's just one of those books that's important whilst also being hilarious, which is my favourite kind of book. So I've been wrecking Simon's books on my channel and my blog for absolutely years, and last month I finally got the opportunity to meet him because he came to my local bookshop. So my copy has the official Gay Club stamp, which I'm very proud of. I will be bragging about it for all eternity. When it comes to wrecking LGBT books, I always hype up Simon because he is one of those authors that just creates such a nice story environment for everyone. So any of his books are perfect for Pride Month, but this one specifically is an absolute ball. So next up is the book that I've most recently finished, and it is I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. Casey is easily turning into one of my favourite authors at this point. All three of their books I have absolutely adored. This one is their first YA novel, so it's a lot tamer than Red, White and Royal Blue and One Last Stop, but it is absolutely packed full of fantastic characters and plot. So this book takes place at a highly religious school, and the most popular girl at that school is Shara Wheeler. She has a boyfriend but disappears after kissing two other people at the school, Rory and Chloe, and they come together with her boyfriend to try and solve the mystery of where she has disappeared to, following all these little clues that she's left them. And like Gay Club, this is a book that is filled with different identities and lots of discussions about that. It's such a perfect example of a funny YA drama. And when I was reading it, I could easily see it as a TV show or a film. Like, I could just see it come to life in my head. So I really hope somebody picks up the rights to this one day. But yeah, this is a really fun book for Pride Month if you're looking for something to read. So next up I have a couple of fun romantic comedies, if that's what you're looking for. And in sticking with the theme, the next book is Casey again. It is, of course, One Last Stop. I'm pretty sure by this point you don't need me to tell you why you should read this book. It's already completely loved by so many people. But it is also one of my own personal favourites as well. If you don't know what One Last Stop is about, it revolves around a girl named August who discovers another girl named Jane on a subway train. But the twist is that Jane has been stuck on this same train journey since the 70s, and so August has to figure out how to unstick Jane from that situation. So it is contemporary with a tiny little bit of a fantasy twist, which is exactly the sort of book I love, so I knew I was going to adore this before I delved into it anyway. It is a new adult book, so it's pretty spicy, but the main selling point of this book for me has to be Jane. I'm in love with her. She is the standard. She is such a fantastic character, and I dare you not to fall in love with her if you read this book. You can't. And then I also have The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. I saw so many people recommending this book on Instagram, so it ended up being one of those books that I bought just because I saw it so much, and then it turned into one of my own favourites. So our main character in this story is Dev, and he works as a producer for a show that is like The Bachelor, and he really believes in the process of helping people find true love on this show. And the contestant for this season is our other character, Charlie. He's a complete mess of a character when we first meet him. He is anxious and awkward and definitely not the right fit for this show, so it becomes Dev's job to try and help Charlie find who will be his potential bride. But of course, it doesn't go that way. Aside from this being absolutely hilarious and adorable, it's also one of the most accurate tellings of anxiety and depression that I've read in a book. I've read lots of books that focus on mental health, and because everybody's journey with things like anxiety and depression is different, it's hard to find a book that describes what you're going through in your head. This is one of the books that managed to capture some of the emotions that I feel, and so that's why it really stuck out to me a lot. So there were a lot of pages in here that really hit home for me, and I cried a little, but despite that, it is also a hilarious rom-com, so yeah, perfect if you need a good fun story. So unbelievably, whilst I'm in the middle of recommending Casey's books for Pride Month, Laura has just announced to me that we have a cast for Red, White and Royal Blue! Literally. Perfect timing because I'm already filming, so I can react to the cast straight away! Who are they? So Alex is being played by Taylor Perez. What the middle name? Taylor Zachar Perez?
Yeah.
I hope I've pronounced that right, I'm not sure. What's his age?
He's 30.
30?
He's from Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago, Illinois.
He was in The Kissing Booth.
Was he now?
He was.
I've never seen The Kissing Booth. Come on, get a picture, get a picture.
Hang on.
Turn your brightness up, expose him. Expose him.
I'm exposing!
That is a lovely picture, oh my goodness. Okay, and Henry? Henry is... I suck so bad at pronouncing names, I've literally just said that in the video. Nicholas Galatzine?
His full name is Nicholas Dmitry Konstantin Galaxy.
That is a name, oh my god! What a name!
He's 27 from London. Oh my god, he actually descends from Russian princes. Your pound flag's going in the arm. He played a prince in Cinderella.
Okay then, so he's already been a prince.
Oh.
Oh, he has his shirt off, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
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 Wow. Wow. Wow. Wow. Anyone holds a violin and we're like, wow.
So, yeah, my camera is about to die. The battery is literally running out, but we have a surprise Red, White and Royal Blue.
Happy Pride Month!
Happy Pride Month indeed! I'm so excited for this film. I'm terrified, I'm excited.
I might pee myself.
I'm gonna combust. We weren't prepared for this at all.
No.
Laura's in her Stranger Things pajamas. She hasn't even brushed her hair today. but here we go. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. Yeah.
Whee!
Thank you. Back to the book recs.
Back to the book recs.
So next up, let's go for some Ace Rep, and of course it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't recommend you an Alice Oseman book. So we have Loveless. Everyone and their mother is reading Alice Oseman right now, so I don't really need to rec this to you because you can walk in any bookshop and you'll find this on a display somewhere. It's so weird because it's very rare that we see UK YA stories take off in the way Heartstopper has done. I'm just so happy that it's getting this attention because I've always been an advocate for UK YA, and just seeing everyone buying Alice's books makes me want to happy cry. Because although everyone is focusing more on Heartstopper and in turn Solitaire because Nick and Charlie are involved in that as well, it's also leading people to Alice's other stories. My last Pride Rec video, I went on and on about how much I loved I Was Born for this. So this time around, I'm going for Loveless. This book is an emotional roller coaster, and I know that it will hit home for a lot of people who have struggled with figuring out who they are. There were moments in this book that were difficult for me to get through because it felt like it was calling out to me. And I am somebody who doesn't identify as asexual because sexuality is very confusing and I genuinely don't know. But there are definitely things in here that I could relate to, and it made me question more things and do more research and try and figure out a bit more about myself. And it's a book that shows you that you can have middle ground. You don't have to go all in for one label or identity, that people can be a big mix of different labels. And so it's such an important story, especially because we are severely lacking Ace Rep. I haven't actually given you an overview of the plot, but this story does follow Georgia as she goes to university and figures out that she is Ace, but she does go through that period of trying to force herself to date people in order to feel normal. And that is something that I can absolutely relate to because I have definitely pushed myself into situations because I felt like I was behind everyone else, and it led to me feeling so uncomfortable. But at that point I had no one to reassure me that it was okay and that I didn't need to date somebody for the sake of dating somebody. I love this book so much. I love all of Alice's books. What did we do to deserve Alice, honestly? So for my final two, I'm going to go for a bit of fantasy. We have Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. So if you're looking for a fantasy book with trans rep, then this is absolutely perfect. It's not high fantasy. It is a murder mystery that follows a boy at the centre of a family who can communicate with the dead. And he ends up befriending a spirit whose murder he has to solve. It's just an absolutely joyful book, despite the fact that it revolves around death. It was one that I was desperate to read immediately after I heard about it, and it definitely didn't disappoint. I always love finding fantasy stories that have trans characters as well, because those stories are usually more difficult to find, but I'm glad that we're getting more of them now. So yeah, if you want a bit of uplifting fantasy, then definitely pick this one up. Talking of uplifting fantasy, my last book is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Words cannot describe the amount of love I have for this story. So I read this book last year after seeing it pop up amongst the Bookstagram feeds. I'd heard of TJ Klune before, but I'd never read any of his books. After this one came out, I did read the blurb and I remember not feeling too interested, but then one of my best friends, Jasmine, read it and she absolutely adored it, and so of course I ended up picking it up, and oh my god. Because I read it last year when I was in the era of not really making videos too often because I was having a terrible time, I didn't get to do a book talk on it, but literally this ended up being one of my favourite books of all time. So it focuses on Linus, who is a man in his 40s who is just going through the motions of life, really. He does a pretty boring job. He has the same schedule. He doesn't really have anyone special in his life. His job is to inspect orphanages for magical children. He ends up being sent to an orphanage on a little island that is filled with some high-level magical children, and there he gets to know more about them and more about the owner of the orphanage. It reads like a contemporary, but obviously it's magical children, and it is a romance as well, but it's the most beautiful, subtle, slow burn romance that you could possibly imagine. It's just a gorgeous story. It is an adult book, but honestly it can be read by anyone, really. There's nothing that wouldn't be appropriate for a teenager in there. So definitely, if you need a mood booster, this is another one. In fact, I think all of the books that I'm wrecking this time are quite happy. They've got important issues within them, but generally they are happy stories, because I think we all need a bit of happiness in our lives after the past few years that we've had. So now onto my own TBR for this month. The first one is Epically Earnest by Molly Horan. The minute I saw the cover for this book and the title, I wanted to read it. It's inspired by The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. This was one of my most anticipated books of the year, and I was lucky enough to be gifted an advance copy, so I was very excited when this popped through the letterbox. I did start it last week, but then Stranger Things dropped and nothing else in my life mattered, so I haven't been reading as much over the weekend. But yeah, I'm back into it now, and this will be the first book that I finish this month. Very excited to see how this turns out. So my next one is It Goes Like This by Mielle Morland. This focuses on a queer girl band. I've been searching for this book for ages. I took a trip to Queer Lit in Manchester a few weeks ago to see if I could find it there, and they told me that it was actually no longer in print in the UK, so I ended up having to go and find it online. And the reason I want to read this one is because I found it on a list of books with pansexual rep, but also because it's about a band, I was interested anyway. So yeah, I'm very excited to see if this lives up to my hype. My next one is All of the Above by Juno Dawson. So I read this book when it first came out, but the cover got redesigned last year to look very pan-themed instead. So I was desperate to get my hands on this version of it, and I couldn't find it in any of the bookshops in my area. They only had the old cover. So when I went to Manchester, I found this in the Gay Pride bookshop that's in Affleck's, which if you haven't been to, then you need to go there because it's incredible. So I finally got the new cover, and I'm hopefully going to reread this during Pride Month. So last up, I have a graphic novel, and it is Chef's Kiss. This looks so adorable. I applied to read it on NetGalley last year, but I didn't get accepted. So I was waiting for it to come out in print. The minute I found a copy, I picked it up. I'm already in love with this boy. Look at him. He is adorable. It's about a graduate, so I'm assuming it's more of a new adult graphic novel. So I'm excited to delve in. So they were my Pride RECS for 2022 and the TBR that I will hopefully be able to get through, but I'm a person who gets very distracted by other shiny stories, so who knows if I'll actually stick to it. We will have to wait and see. I am always looking for new recs, so please drop any of your faves down in the comments, especially if it is an area of the umbrella that doesn't get covered as much. Feel free to throw them my way. I hope you all have a lovely Pride Month, whether you have a label or you don't, or whether you're just confused and don't know what your identity is. Everyone deserves to love who they want to love freely and to be celebrated